1966, a public square in Beijing fills before sunrise. Loudspeakers crackle. Red banners hang from every wall. At the center stands a woman with a shaved head, a wooden placard tied around her neck, ink dripping down her face. Behind her is the power of Mao Zedong, a man whose words now decide life or death for millions. But everything changed when accusation became spectacle. By the end of the day, she is barely recognizable, knees broken, head forced down, her body left slumped in the dust while crowds are told to cheer. Mao Zedong was born in 1893 in Shaoshan, a rural village in Hunan province. His father was a strict farmer who beat him for disobedience. As a child, Mao worked long hours in the fields. He later said he hated the control. What most people don't know is that young Mao once ran away from home for 3 days after a violent argument. That moment mattered. He learned early that power meant survival. He studied in Changsha, where ideas about revolution filled the air. Books became his escape, but they also became his weapon. By 1921, Mao helped found the Chinese Communist Party. At first, he was just one voice among many. Then came war. Civil war, foreign invasion, chaos rewarded those willing to be ruthless. The first signs were small. He supported land seizures from wealthy farmers. Then came executions, thousands, publicly. It worked. Fear built loyalty faster than hope ever could. By 1949, Mao declared the founding of the People's Republic of China. He stood in Tiananmen Square and announced a new era. But the system he built depended on constant struggle. Campaign after campaign followed. In 1957, the anti-rightist campaign targeted intellectuals. Over 550,000 people were labeled enemies. Many were sent to labor camps. Then came the Great Leap Forward in 1958. It promised rapid industrial growth. Instead, it caused famine. Between 1959 and 1961, an estimated 15 to 45 million people died. But Mao did not step back. Instead, he escalated. By 1966, he launched the Cultural Revolution. Students became soldiers of ideology. They called themselves Red Guards. Schools closed, authority collapsed, and public punishment became a tool of control. Unknown to them, this chaos was not accidental. It was designed. Every accusation fed the machine. Every humiliation proved loyalty. The violence often centered on women accused of being class enemies. Teachers, doctors, writers, even widows of former officials. No trial, no defense. In August 1966 alone, Beijing recorded over 700 deaths linked to Red Guard violence. Many victims were women. Public struggle sessions became daily events. Victims were dragged into squares, forced to kneel, hands tied behind their backs in a position called airplane arms, heads pushed down so hard their necks bent forward unnaturally. One survivor later said, "They shaved my head and wrote 'traitor' on my face. My daughter was forced to stand in the crowd and watch. She was beaten for hours, then sent to a labor camp for 10 years. According to internal party documents, punishment must be visible so the masses learn." That line guided everything. Women were targeted in specific ways. Hair was cut as a symbol of shame. Clothes were stripped or altered. In some cases, they were paraded wearing signs listing their alleged crimes. Some signs weighed over 10 kilograms, forcing them to stoop. But the reality was even worse in rural areas. In Guangxi province, reports later revealed mass killings. Entire groups accused of disloyalty were executed. In some cases, bodies were mutilated. The number of deaths in Guangxi alone reached over 100,000 between 1967 and 1968. What most people don't know is how organized it became. Lists were made. Names were circulated. Accusations often came from neighbors, students, even family members. One teacher, Bian Zhongyun, was beaten to death on August 5, 1966 at a Beijing school. Her students participated. Her body lay for hours before being removed. No one intervened. Another account from court testimony years later described a woman forced to confess for crimes she did not understand. I repeated what they told me. If I stopped, they hit me again. Meanwhile, Mao remained distant from the scenes. He encouraged the movement through speeches and writings. Posters quoted him everywhere. His image watched over every punishment. By 1968, millions had been displaced. Estimates suggest over 36 million people were persecuted during the Cultural Revolution. Women made up a significant portion of public humiliation cases. Instead of justice, there was theater. Instead of law, there was fear. By the early 1970s, the chaos began to spiral beyond control. Red Guard factions turned on each other. Armed clashes broke out. Factories stopped. Schools remained closed. Meanwhile, international pressure grew. China's instability became visible to the outside world. In 1971, the death of Lin Biao, Mao's chosen successor, shocked the leadership. He died in a plane crash while allegedly fleeing after a failed coup. The event exposed cracks in the system. By that time, even party officials feared for their own safety. The machinery Mao created was consuming itself. Mao, aging and increasingly isolated, began to pull back slightly. But he never publicly admitted fault. Instead, blame shifted to others. Unknown to many, internal discussions had already begun about restoring order. But it came too late for millions. September 9, 1976, Beijing, 0012D1 AIM. Mao Zedong lies in a hospital bed. He is 82 years old. His body is frail. His face is swollen. Nurses move quietly around him. Machines hum. He cannot speak clearly anymore. His breathing is uneven. Doctors note multiple heart attacks in the previous days. At 0010, his heart stops. The room is silent. Outside, the government prepares the announcement. Within hours, millions are told to mourn. Public grief is organized, controlled. But behind the scenes, power shifts quickly. Within weeks, the gang of 4 key figures of the Cultural Revolution are arrested. Blame is redirected. Meanwhile, survivors begin to speak. Slowly, carefully. One woman who endured years of public punishment later described her reflection after release. "I did not recognize my own face. I looked older than my mother. The scars remained. Physical, psychological, permanent. The system did not collapse overnight. It faded, quietly. Records were hidden. Stories were softened, but the images never fully disappeared. Women forced to kneel, crowds taught to cheer. The question is not just how it happened. It is why so many people took part. Because the most disturbing part is not the power of one man. It is how easily ordinary people learn to use it.